Welcome to Daily Steps from One Extraordinary Marriage, where we outline simple steps that you can take to have the ultimate marriage adventure. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. In today's show, we answer the question, how can we do the coffee break if we are long distance?
The wife goes on to ask, my husband is deployed and I want to start some sort of coffee break that works with our circumstances. Distance is no excuse to being intentional and checking in. Amen to that. I want to create the habit while he's away so that we can easily integrate it into our lives when he returns. First and foremost, for those of you that don't know what the coffee break is, at its most basic, it's a tool to help couples stay connected through the week. I mean, it's like a business meeting for your marriage, where you talk about everything from love to logistics.
Exactly. It's basically a 30-minute, pretty much once you get on target and you're just rolling, it's about a 30-minute check-in each and every week where you're sitting down, going over a number of questions, just so you know what's happening. And a lot of times when we know what's going on, there's not an angst, there's no stress. We tend to flow a lot better in our marriages. To learn more about that and even pick up your own coffee break, go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break.
And so, as you start looking at what are the logistics when you're long distance, right? I'm so excited that we do live, technology gets a bum rap and we've, there have been times when we're like, just put down the phones. But the fact of the matter is that when we're in a season now where because of FaceTime and Skype and video conferencing and all of these different things, you two can actually get to see each other and do this. Back in the day when Tony and I first started dating, back in 1994.
Oh, long distance bills.
Long distance bills. Couldn't see each other, could only hear the voice.
We're talking like in the tune of like $600 to $800 a month. That was a lot. Now,
let's not talk about
now you can do a coffee break. Now, for those of you who are military spouses and in the military and serving, thank you so much. We know that's a little more difficult. And yet, we live in San Diego. Many of our friends are in the military. Many of our friends have been deployed. We know the spouses here. There are, at times, depending on where they're at and where they're stationed, you do get some regular check-ins. So make sure that if you are getting those regular check-ins, can you make some time for that coffee break? It may not be the full 30 minutes though. You know what I'm saying? You guys may have to condense it to where you guys are at. Maybe you're only pulling certain questions that you guys want to ask each other. So you are staying connected in that area.
And it's being deliberate about that time, right? Just like we'll put a coffee break date on our calendar, right? And it's like, okay, here's what's going to happen. Like we know what the agenda is. The two of you, you take the coffee break, right? You figure out which questions may not apply because you're long distance, right? There may be some of the logistical questions that simply don't impact one or the other because they're not here. You have our permission. Like, let me just actually tell you a little something about the coffee break or any of the tools from One Extraordinary Marriage. You actually have permission to customize them to fit your circumstances. You don't have to do all the questions in a row. You don't even have to do all the questions. The purpose behind this tool or any of the other tools that we talk about here on the show is that you are resourced to take your marriage to the next level. Right. So you start saying, okay, you know what? Yeah, we're going to do a coffee break. We know we're going to do it on Tuesday. Both of you, to the best of your abilities. Now, granted, we understand that when you're serving, things may come up and your coffee break time may not happen. Don't get upset. That's military life. That's first responder life. Those things happen.
Now, for some of you, you may be traveling throughout the week. You may have a period where you're working Monday through Friday, and all you do is you're home on Saturdays and Sundays. I remember this growing up. My dad did that a lot. There have been times when Elise and I had more heavy travel schedules, where we didn't have things like this we could do. And so one thing I would say, if you are even in that mode, don't wait for the coffee break just to happen on that Saturday or Sunday when you are home. Do it when you are out. Maybe it's going to be on Wednesday at the middle of the week. You have some time in the evening. You and your spouse can sit down and talk. FaceTime each other. Do it then. Take the opportunities you have, even though you're separated due to work situations or travel, our servicemen and women serving in different parts of this world. Find when you can connect and just ask these questions. Be open, be honest, be transparent. That allows for you guys to, when you are together, brings you guys closer together, right? Now, there may be times though when you're going, hey, Tony, but this is going on, that's going on. Do I share all of that over the screen? You guys are going to have to make those calls. I can't make that for you. I will say there have been times when Elisa and I are on a phone call and we're discussing something where I don't divulge information, not to hold it back, but because in that conversation over the phone call, not being face-to-face isn't the right time to share that. I'm going to bring that up during a walk and talk when we're face-to-face so that we can see each other's body expressions. I also believe that physical touch, having that ability to use that and to share where we're at is important. So you guys are going to have to ebb and flow in what works for you.
Right, because when you're deployed, you don't always get the luxury of being able to table something for a walk and talk or being able to have that touch, because you could be at the beginning of a 6 or 9 month deployment.
Right.
And so the two of you have got to work out prior or as part of even a coffee break, how are we going to handle the more difficult situations? The more difficult conversations. Because I will tell you, we don't want you putting the more difficult conversations on hold for 6 months. It'll just blow up and be, like the big elephant, right? But it's how do you cultivate, right? How do the two of you create an environment where you can cultivate this vulnerability and transparency? And let me tell you something, like learning any new skill, developing your skills of communication around the coffee break, it's going to feel a little awkward at first. Right? Like, I'm going to ask you this question. You're going to ask me this question. Like that feels awkward. Keep doing it, right? You don't just give up because it feels awkward the first time. You keep doing it because just like, taking vitamins or eating your vegetables, it's good for you. And you know what's going to happen when you put forth the effort to make your marriage extraordinary.
To learn more and get your very own coffee break, go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break.